Welcome to Dakota Starry Nights in the Hidden Valley Observatory here in western South Dakota. Well, today we're going to do a review on the Explorer Scientific 208mm Newtonian carbon fiber that I have right here. And long story short, because I know some guys are like in a hurry and they just want to get down to brass tacks with it, and we can do that. We can do that here. It is a great newt. I've had real good success with it. I haven't had any issues with it, and the focuser on this is just fantastic. I've had like 3 pounds of gear on here, mostly a Panoptic 35mm focal reducer, PVS 14, and it's handled it well. No slippage. It's probably one of the better ones for the imaging newts that are out there. The other thing I want to touch on real briefly is that the secondary mirror is 80 millimeters. So you're going to get a very large imaging circle on that chip. And that's real important so you can do away with some of that vignetting. So let's go over to the shop and do an unboxing, and I'll cover this in more detail there. Okay, so this just came in today. This is the Explorer Scientific Photo Newtonian carbon fiber. Now, depending on where you buy it, some of them don't say that it doesn't have the coma corrector, and some websites say that it does come with the coma corrector. But what they all seem to have in common is that none of them come with the finder scope, unless you're buying in Europe, and they all come with the handle and the rings. Now, the two most important factors of any telescope are the glass and the focuser. So let's start with the primary mirrors. The Explorer Scientific's primary diameter, as stated, is 208 millimeters and is made of a special low expansion HPZ33 glass. Now, I'm unaware from what manufacturer Explorer Scientific is sourcing their glass from, but a quick search on the web turned up CDGM Glass USA website. They categorize HPZ33 as a low expansion borosilicate glass characterized by high light transmittance, excellent thermal stability, excellent mechanical hardness, and excellent chemical durability. Now, one thing, guys, you always want to do is save your boxes, because you never know. Boy, this looks pretty nice. You never know, you might have to send it back for repairs or what have you. So, this is a little bit bigger case, which is pretty nice. Now, the Orion one does not come with a case, but it does come with a few other things like the finder scope, but that's not a deal breaker for me, because I have quite a few finder scopes, and usually the ones they come with I don't like anyway. I usually like a red dot, so that's not a deal breaker. The main thing when it comes to a telescope, really, at the end of the day, is the optics and the focuser. That's the main thing, because without good glass, all the goodies in the world ain't going to do nothing. This brings us to the coatings. The Explorer Scientific Primary has an EMD coating with a 97% reflectivity and is protected by a dielectric coating. Again, a search online turned up the EMD Performance website, a German company with offices in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They state, thin films made of silver patinel show a reflectivity of about 97% in the visual spectrum. Areas of application include coatings for electronics and conductor lines, highly reflective mirrors, and metal dielectric beam splitters. At 500 nanometers, reflectivity is reported to be at 97%. Now, it comes with a manual. They have the Breezer here, edition of this. They're pretty identical except for the shell, and depending on what website you go to, the coatings and the mirror material, there's conflicting information. Looks pretty good. Now, initially when these came out, they had a secondary on there, Explorer Scientific was trying to get innovated and provide a more reliable, easier mechanism for doing collimation on the secondary. Unfortunately, it was wrought with some problems and people were getting confused on how to use it. And I also understand that the spider was a little thin for the mechanism, and so there was a little bit of play or sag and it would go out of collimation. And when you're dealing with an f3.9, that's a problem. They corrected it back to the old design, but they included essentially Bob's knobs on the end to kind of make that easier. That brings us to the secondary mirrors. The Explorer Scientific secondary is 80 millimeters and is individually matched to the primary according to their website, and also has the EMD coatings with 97% reflectivity. So now we move on to the focuser. The Explorer Scientific has a 10:1 reduction, 2-inch Crayford style focuser, and I believe a back focus of 60 millimeters. Though I couldn't confirm that, as Explorer Scientific customer support never answered the phone despite repeated attempts or responded to messages left, which was disappointing. So here we have the OTA and the focuser, and it has 45 millimeters of travel. The tension for the drawer tube, this larger one adjusts the tension, the smaller one locks the drawer tube in position. It does have some nice action to it. It feels pretty robust, and I believe it'll hold a nice imaging train. I don't feel any movement there, no slop. So there's the cradle. You can see it's felt lined, you know, so that's kind of neat. Seems like it's pretty well made. That handle is nice, and it comes with a Vixen. But looking at the OTA here, my first initial impression is that it's pretty nice. It looks really, really nice. It doesn't seem to weigh that much. It's pretty light. You know, I can pick it up pretty easily. Of course, it doesn't have that, but they all have to have a saddle of some kind. So let's look inside. This looks like a pretty nice cover. It fits on there pretty good. You can see it. That's nice and snug, comes off nice. I like that. Mirror looks pretty good. The clips that hold the mirror look rather large, but I guess due to the fact that it is a 208 millimeter mirror, that's not going to be interfering with anything. Looks pretty clean in there. The spider feels nice and stiff. Yeah, really nice and stiff. Yeah. And then these knobs, these Bob knobs, are probably going to make it easier. The secondary looks like it's really well supported. I'm going to take you in there and so you can take a look at it, the way they've got the mirror. Now, I don't know if you can see, but there's like a piece of steel that runs down here to support the disc that supports the secondary mirror. So that looks pretty nice. Now there's a nice shot of it, and you can see it over here, right here. And there's another one on this side and one underneath on the bottom. And then there's the plate that holds the secondary right there, and supported by here and here. This looks like a nice housing for the secondary. Much more stable than it being held just at a single point. Now here's the back of the primary for where you will do your collimation, and there appears to be a really thick heavy-duty spring here. A lot thicker than I've normally seen some of the other newts in the past. So that's heavy duty. Sometimes guys have to change those out because they're too weak, where I don't think that's going to be the problem here. It also appears that they put vinyl back here.
That's a good thing because that will keep light from bouncing off the ground. A lot of these are open and the glass is exposed. And if you do any kind of work on concrete, it's good to have a drop cloth of some kind to keep that reflective light bouncing up and coming to the back of your mirror and dropping your contrast. Overall, it looks like a really nice OTA, very well made, pretty, sounds pretty solid. No, it feels pretty hard. I mean, I don't feel any give to it at all. Some guys were complaining about the OTA on the Breezer, it being aluminum, and Orion's is steel. But the aluminum, I've heard guys say that they've got theirs and it was flat on one side and it was kind of thin and this and that. But I've never had one, so I couldn't really comment firsthand. It's just what I'm gleaning off some of the websites, Cloudy Nights and places like that. The fit and finish look pretty nice, the way they did it. And you can just see for yourself up there the cap and how this is rolled over and trimmed up. Yeah, I like that part. It looks good. Okay, so let's head back out and see what all this means under the stars.
Okay, welcome back. So I've had this out several nights, mostly using it for night vision astronomy, and it has been just fantastic. It's so fast. It's a 3.9. I've done a workshop here at the observatory on night vision. It's here on Dakota Starry Nights. You can check that video out. Because of its short focal length, it's great for night vision. It's also great for wide views. I've used it looking at views of the Milky Way, and it's really fantastic. If you're going to use certain eyepieces, you may have to put the extension on it, but I didn't really find that a big problem. The other thing I'd like to point out here, this is the 1.5 inch to 2-inch adapter, and right here there are T-threads. It's an integral part of the 2-inch adapter, so you could put your camera right into that or the coma corrector and you're good to go. While we're at it here, I've got this on a Twilight 2 mount. It handles it real well. I've got setting circles put in on this. I've also done a video here on Dakota Starry Nights on how to make adjustable setting circles for Dobsonian telescope. But the principle can apply to any alt-az mount. Here I have a Twilight 2. So I've got a counterweight system set here. Basically, it's 2 wooden dovetails with a Vixen clamp here and a Vixen clamp right here. What this allows is that when you're on this kind of a position, normally because of the OTA the way it is, this wants to do this. But this gives you the perfect counterbalance to where this puppy stays wherever you want it. It just stays. It's also adjustable, so you can move this weight up or down or slide this way or that way. I'm going to bring you in a little closer so you can see how I've got this setting circle set up on this Twilight 2 mount, which I'll tell you guys, it's pretty much a push to. It's amazing how accurate it can be once you calibrate on a star. Were lots of times when the target was right in the eyepiece. So much fun. It's no batteries, no cables, no alignment, none of that stuff, and it's quiet and it's really cool. So come on in and let's take a look at this. Okay, so on this wooden dovetail that I made here, there are these 2 bolts that come through it, and there's a spring underneath here. Now I get into this in more detail with the video I did on adjustable setting circles for Dobsonian telescopes here on Dakota Starry Nights. But basically it's transferring that know-how onto this dovetail. See, and then this moves up and down so you can adjust your digital gauge to the setting that's on your alignment star. I usually use Vega. It's one of the first ones up in the east. So if it says it's 26 degrees and this on the digital gauge is reading 28, then I turn this up or down depending in order to get it synced to that star when the star is in the crosshairs of a reticle eyepiece and in a telescope. It's really pretty basic. Let's take a look at Az and see how I got that set up. So what I have here is a protractor ruler. It goes 360 degrees. I cut the center out, mounted it on a piece of vinyl, and then put some rubber here. And this is basically just gasket material that you put around a window to winterize your windows or door frames. Readily available at hardware store. A piece of plastic that was cut on an angle, and then with a little zip tie down here, and here is one of those Velcro straps. And what this is a handy little thing. Picked this up at Walmart for like $1. It was ridiculously cheap. Put some red tape over the light, and what this does, this will give you the light at night so that you don't have to turn on your cap light, so you can read your gauge here and also up on the top where the digital protractor is. And then once I get my reading dialed in, then I just shut it off, and that's it, and until I go to the next target. So this has really been an amazing upgrade. It was so cheap, but it made such a big difference on acquiring targets, and guys, you ought to check it out. So that about wraps it up. If you like what you saw here today, give us a thumbs up or make a comment. We appreciate it. Helps other people that are logging in and trying to get the latest on what's going on. Thanks for tuning in to Dakota Starry Nights. Clear skies.